Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Nimrod Pod. I am your embattled host, Lou Stump, alongside my brothers in arms, Chet Lifkit, Mel Goodman, and our faithful producer, Joey Donati, manning the helm from the Nimrod Central Command Center. Make sure you're following at the Nimrod Pod on X, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and at Nimrod Pod on YouTube and Instagram. Like and share this episode to start the chain reaction, and leave a comment letting us know what you think of the show. Now let's dive right into this week's news. Friday, January 30th, marked the beginning of the Great Goyim Comeback. Since 1963, the United States of America has been controlled by evil elites. We, the people, have been dragged through the mud, treated like cattle on their way to be slaughtered. A man named Jeffrey Epstein was at the center of this globalist power structure. Unfortunately for all of Jeffrey's friends and associates, 2026 is the year of the goyim. Goyim are in abundance, and we are pissed. Tonight, you're going to listen to four proud, hard M goyim break free of our goy chains as we expose this satanic pedophile sex trafficking blackmail network. Now, let's dive right in to these files. Gentlemen, we're going to start off with a quick word from our great FBI director, friend of the show, Kash Patel.
There's no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one
For the information that we have
in the files.
in the case file.
Okay.
There's no.
Kash Patel, everybody. Kash Patel. Now let's take a look at the leader of us goy cattle, the one and only Ben Shapiro.
Thousands of hours of tape. There are, by the way, but they are child pornography. The reason the FBI is not releasing them is because those tapes do not include underage people with third parties on Epstein Island. That is not what the tapes are. Okay? I also have sources in the federal government who are covering this stuff and have seen the documents. Okay, those tapes are just child porn. That's all. That's what they are. That's why the FBI is not releasing them. Okay? As far as the Epstein list, what I have been told by my sources is that there is no Epstein list, that basically there's a black book of Jeffrey Epstein contacts. And the vast majority of those contacts are already out there publicly. That's why you know names like Prince Andrew or Alan Dershowitz or some of the names that have been mentioned here. Those contacts, there is no evidence, according to the DOJ and the FBI, and again, that's public. There's no evidence that any of those third parties were having girls trafficked to them. Here is Tucker then asserting that it was actually Mossad. Again, without evidence, not a shock. Of course, this is where Tucker was going. This has become the hot speculation on the internet, is without evidence. You say that Mossad was running Jeffrey Epstein. When I say without evidence, I mean without evidence. Naftali Bennett, the former Israeli prime minister, said, quote, "As a former Israeli prime minister, with the Mossad having reported directly to me, I say to you with 100% certainty, the accusation that Jeffrey Epstein somehow worked for Israel or the Mossad running a blackmail ring is categorically and totally false. This accusation is a lie being peddled by prominent online personalities such as Tucker Carlson, pretending they know things they don't." And in fact, I followed up with the former Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, and what he told me is that Mossad has not been active in the United States or against the United States since the Jonathan Pollard scandal of 1987, when a U.S. Army contractor who's actually working for the Navy revealed classified information to the Israeli government. He was prosecuted by the United States government and ended up in prison for almost 30 years. And so Israel since then has not spied on the United States with.
So you heard it here first from Lord Shapiro. There's no Epstein list. There's no files. There's no human trafficking. Tucker Carlson was lying to you. And there is absolutely no shred of evidence that Epstein worked with, for, or around the Mossad. No evidence whatsoever. Now, gentlemen, let's take a look at this one file. We're going to dip our toe into the file. Now that we know it's all complete bullshit, let's just dip our toe just a little bit into the file. Okay, so we got Robert Maxwell, father of Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand woman. You could even say she was running the show, and he was just the head of it. In a 2018 email, Epstein states that Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine's father, was passed away after attempting to blackmail the Mossad for £400 million. Unless they gave him £400 million to save his crumbling empire, he would expose all he had done for them. Maxwell passed on all the secrets he learned to Mossad in Tel Aviv. In turn, they tolerated his excesses, vanities, and insatiable appetite for luxurious lifestyle and women. He told his controllers who they should target and how they should do it. He appointed himself as Israel's unofficial ambassador to the Soviet bloc. Wait a second, Ben Shapiro. I thought Jeffrey Epstein was just a lone gunman. He's just a lone gunman. Call him Oswald. He's just a lone gunman. This is Butler, Pennsylvania. It's a lone gunman. This is Charlie Kirk. Lone gunman, just one guy. No master conspiracy. Nothing to see here, especially not anything to do with Mother Israel. What do you guys think's going on here? Who do you think was Jeffrey Epstein's boss, fellas?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. If it wasn't before, all you Nimrods out there, I don't doubt if you're listening to this show, you know that Jeffrey Epstein was working for the Mossad or as an Israeli agent. I do wonder, just based on the sheer amount of mention, the sheer amount of confirmation that we see in this release of the involvement of Israel and the involvement of the Jewish identity in all of this, what are the boomers going to think? There's a lot of boomers who are so dead set on Israel being our greatest ally, and they've been programmed into it their whole lives, so I don't really blame them. But what is their opinion going to be on this? How is Fox News going to spin it so that it doesn't implicate Israel and it doesn't implicate Donald Trump? Those are my questions.
Let's take a look at a couple more files, guys. This is the question we need to be asking ourselves. Who was Jeffrey Epstein's boss? He couldn't have done this all on his own, could he? Let's take a look at this. Lebanon John, friend of the show, great man. He found this gem. It's a conversation email between Epstein and Peter Thiel. Epstein says to Thiel, as you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. As you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. Nimrods, do we know who the Rothschilds are? Here, allow me to refresh you. Let's go back to the time of Napoleon. Napoleon's having his final battle against the British Empire. And the Rothschilds have spies on the battlefield. And as soon as they know who had won the battle, they sprinted back to London so that they could be the first people to get to London, because obviously there were no cell phones back then. So news traveled by horseback. It traveled by person, by word of mouth. The Rothschilds were the first to get to London, and they went to the London Stock Exchange, and they leaked that the British had lost the war against Napoleon. When they did this, the London Stock Exchange completely crashed. I mean, the London economy was nothing. And overnight, the Rothschild family came in and bought the entire London Stock Exchange. And when news came the next morning that Napoleon had actually been defeated, you know what happened to the stock exchange? You know what happened to the average stock price in the London Stock Exchange? Skyrocket. And the Rothschilds became quadruple billion gajillionaires. They owned all of the British Empire at this point. They owned all of London. They owned the London Stock Exchange. And that's how they got their stranglehold on the entire Western world. So these same people, from the time of Napoleon, that overthrew Napoleon, took him down, tricked the entire stock market in Great Britain and seized power. And then from that point on, brokered both sides of every single war in modern history. They funded the Nazis, they funded the United States, they funded Great Britain. Every single major battle, every single major war, every single major conflict was funded on both sides by the Rothschilds. They created the military-industrial complex. They were the central bank. They were the New World Order, and they still are today. And who do they have representing them? Who is their middleman? It's a guy called Jeffrey Epstein. I'll show you this next. If that email wasn't enough proof, here is a contract. And in this contract, it is proof that Epstein had a contract with the Rothschild Group for $25 million. What was his job? Great question, Lord Bebo. Lord Bebo, good golly, this guy had every single scoop as soon as these damn files were dropped. It's almost like somebody told him it was happening. Dear Jeffrey, you on behalf of Southern Trust Company, Inc., a Virgin Islands corporation, have been collaborating with Ariane de Rothschild on behalf of Edmund de Rothschild Holding S.A., collectively the Rothschild Group. In consideration for the work, the Rothschild Group shall pay the following to STC. $25 million payment shall be made by the Rothschild Group to STC, to Southern Trust Company, whose president is Jeffrey Epstein. So what was all that about? Stop blaming everything on the Rothschilds. Alex Jones is crazy. He's a conspiracy theorist. There's no New World Order. There's no globalists that are controlling the entire world. It looks to me like Alex Jones, whose entire life has been dragged through the mud, like the goyim he is, has been vindicated on behalf of Team Humanity, on behalf of the American populace. He was right all along. Add another dollar to the Alex Jones was right jar. The Rothschilds are the epitome of globalism. They're like the Bilderberg Group. They are everything that's wrong with this world. And they had Jeffrey Epstein representing them. They were right in the middle of this battle, this massive satanic pedophile sex trafficking network. You better believe they were. And you shouldn't be fucking surprised. You should have listened to Alex Jones the first time. Stop coming at the king, or you're going to get clipped. What do you think about that, boys?
Alex Jones has solidified his standing as the father of all modern populism. And I truly believe that if he didn't exist, and we didn't have an Alex Jones or a Rex Jones, we might still be living in the dark about this. We might still be living in the dark. It only takes one person speaking up for something like this to get exposed. And you know, it might take more than that after the one person speaks up. But thank God that Alex Jones dug this up so many years ago. And I also want to thank God that we're uncovering it, albeit slowly, but we are uncovering it. And the implications here are so massive that I can't even believe what I'm seeing. I can't believe that these people would let these files out. It makes me think that there has to be something going on. There has to be a move being made here, an active blackmail or war against either Trump or somebody else that is in the files. I'll hang up and listen.
I think the one thing that just really shocks me in all this, America was wanting these files to be released. It seems like there was no political difference. It seems like most of the votes from both the Republican and Democratic Party both wanted these files released. And so my question is this even going to be helpful? Most of these documents, most of these sources are quote unquote unverified. And I think that's the gamble that the people who released this took. You know, all these allegations against Trump, they're not supported. They can't be quote unquote factually confirmed. And so I don't think anything's going to come of Trump. I don't think anything's going to come of a lot of these people. And I think they're just trying to please the people by releasing these documents that will ultimately end up accusing nobody. What do y'all think about that?
Well, I think you're getting a little ahead of yourself, but there is a complete difference between the emails and then all these phone calls. All these phone calls are phone calls to the FBI. And in Trump's case, these are phone calls to the FBI after Trump was already president of people claiming and making accusations that he was involved with Epstein or that he was committing SA. The emails themselves are solid. Like, these are straight from Epstein. And anything in these emails are things that Epstein and his associates thought was appropriate for email. You know, anytime they talked about a major geopolitical situation that somehow Jeffrey Epstein had his thumb on, he would say, not for email, not for email. And they would get off email and they go talk about it on the phone, or they meet in person, or they come to the island. So if we look at all these phone accusations that are made decades after they allegedly took place by people who are unverified, we also have disclaimers next to each of these phone calls regarding Trump saying this person has been proven to be not a credible source. But they kept in the files because due to the congressional subpoena, or the order that Congress gave the DOJ, you have to release everything pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein. Any open investigation, anything that could be used in that investigation, any prior investigations on Jeffrey Epstein, you have to give us everything. And the reason it had taken them so long to divulge what they had is because up until the time they released it, people could call and make accusations. And then that's another file that gets added to the list of documents, and it keeps piling on. So essentially, many of these documents on Trump we had seen before, we were aware of actually when he was running 2016, like when guys like Alex Jones were vetting Trump, deciding whether or not they wanted to endorse him. The Jane Doe story, E. Jean Carroll, all this stuff was out there, and it had been proven false. It had been proven not credible, or he had some sort of alibi. So a lot of this they're just bringing back up, and they're redacting some names and faces to try to get a reaction out of stupid people who aren't educated. And then there's a ton of fluff that was added in there too, a ton of bullshit. I think one of the interesting ones is that it is an email record. Actually, I don't know if it was an email or a phone call saying that Trump was introduced to Melania by Epstein on Epstein's plane. And apparently this is one of the things that Trump was really pissed about, and apparently isn't true at all. But how are we to know? There's so much horseshit, as you said, Mel, in these files. We just have to go off of what we know. When was the email sent? Who was it sent by? Was it an email? Was it just some random unverified person calling in? I don't really care about the people calling in. I mean, we should definitely listen to everything and consume it and think about it, but we can't do anything about a pointless phone call with no name attached to it, with no evidence attached to it. These emails are damning, and this is just the stuff that they're okay with sharing. I'm going to show you guys something here.
Quick, Lou.
Go ahead.
While you're
Joey.
pulling that up, why are they blocking out the names in these emails?
They're protecting victims. They're protecting people that are involved in open investigations. Those are the two things. They're not allowed to be redacting anything else. They may be. But Todd Blanche, who I think needs to, oh boy, I think he is the devil incarnated. I cannot stand Todd Blanche. I think he is everything wrong with the Trump administration, but he gives the briefing on the Epstein files being released late last week, and he said all these redactions you see are victims. They're people who are in witness protection. They're people that are involved in active investigations. And then like one other thing. So this isn't like them being selective and only removing people that they want to show or that they don't want to show. They were given strict criteria, and I think there would be repercussions if they were to stray off of that path. All right. So who's Jeffrey Epstein's boss? We talked about Mossad. We talked about the Rothschilds. I think there is a power block that is in charge of the world and ultimately in charge of Jeffrey Epstein. He's not a genius. He is an operative. He is a useful tool. He is a middleman, a professional Swiss Army middleman. He doesn't work for Mossad. He doesn't work for the CIA. He is a professional middleman. He will broker deals between all these parties. He can get you a meeting with Putin. He can get you a meeting with Bill Clinton. He can get you a meeting with Bill Gates. He brokers deals between foreign nations, foreign intelligence officials, and corporate interests. Any side of the aisle. He represents what? The people that control the entire world. He represents the Rothschilds. He represents the money. But Epstein has a particular tie to Israel, to Mossad, to whoever owns Israel, when you could say there's a direct tie between the British Crown, Israel, and the Rothschilds. Let's look at this here. This is an email exchange between Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, and someone who's threatening him. So I'll read this to you. Again, Lord Bebo, what a beast. What a fucking tank. This guy must be a CIA whistleblower or some sort of informant. After Jeffrey Epstein died, his brother was threatened. I'll choke you like your brother. Your brother's mistake was that he wanted to tell the court everything. The boss wants to meet you. He just wants to see if you know him or not. And this guy's asking over and over again, what's the boss's name? I know you know the boss's name. He just wants to meet you. He's trying to find out what Epstein's brother knows. Because if he knows anything, he's going to talk. And they can't have him talk. You don't know us, I'm sure. You have beautiful children, bitch. Fuck your children. Which one should I kill first? You know, no one knows who we are. I want to kill them in such a way that no one can tell how they died. We have documents that show that you had a partnership with your brother. I want to do something to see the death of your loved ones. We will kill one of your children in 72 hours. Stupid. Sent by Puggy Killer, and Epstein's brother was Puggy. Puggy Killer at fastmail.com. How beautiful is that, guys? So clearly, there are powerful people in charge of this man. And it spans more than Israel. It's more than the Rothschilds. This is like the spiritual battle of good versus evil. And there are people that control this world. There are globalists that want a new world order. They're working across party lines. They are funding both sides of every war. They are working in their own self-interest. They don't care if there's a nuclear Armageddon because they'll go into their bunkers and they'll come back up and they'll restart humanity with their own blood. Who do you guys think his real boss was? We looked at Mossad. We looked at the Rothschilds. We have this super creepy email from Puggy Killer. Do you think it's a specific group? Do you think it's Israel? Do you think it's organized Jewry? Do you think it's something different? Or do you think there's this power block of evil people? Do you think are we in the midst of a spiritual battle? What do you think, Chet?
I think his immediate supervisor was Ghislaine Maxwell, and her boss was Robert, and overarching the top of them was Mossad and probably the CIA as well. I think I read something earlier today, confirm this if it's true. There were FBI agents that were digging into this, or at least digging into the connections and the network of it. And there was like 7 of them killed as they were looking through it. That could just be some stuff I read on X. But I do think that the chain of command goes to Ghislaine, who I think was pulling the strings, then to Robert and Mossad. It is interesting for me reading this internal power struggle that they're having with Robert Maxwell and what happened to him. It gives me a little bit of hope, because whenever I consider that this group is the same people that are what we would call our global elite today. It lets me know that they're not impregnable in their defense. Like, we can break this up and take the world back. They have their own internal problems and weaknesses that we can take advantage of and split this up. Maybe one day we'll be free again, and this will be a world you want to bring your kids into.
I don't have the answer, and I don't have any accurate guesses as to who I think the boss is. But all of these files, everything that we have accumulated, says that there certainly was a boss. So the fact that the media is still pushing Epstein as the mastermind behind it all, we got to remember that Jeffrey Epstein died in jail by hanging, and it's still considered suicide. But then you look into it, and everybody should know this. It's just nobody's saying it anymore. Security guards fell asleep. Records were falsified. He was removed from suicide watch, and then his cellmate was transferred. And somehow he still kills himself in jail. But then we see something like this, an article like this, saying that they killed him because he wanted to talk. So I really wish I could give an answer, but there is 100% an organization of very powerful people that are not going to be accused. I don't think there's any hope that they will be. And something like this is going to occur again. And it's just my hope that there is enough good and leadership in the world to finally get to the bottom of something if it happens in the future, if we can't get to the bottom of this, which I really hope we can.
So we have evidence that essentially confirms Epstein was at least part of Mossad. We know he was working with the Rothschilds. Here it says Epstein would call Dershowitz, Alan Dershowitz, and then the Mossad would call Dershowitz to debrief. So he was middlemaning between different people and intelligence agencies and corporate interests and powerful billionaire elite individuals. If I go to this next file, we learn something about former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. And in this particular file, Ehud Barak sent Jeffrey Epstein an email just about slicing pizza. An email most likely owned and run by former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak about slicing pizza was sent to Jeffrey Epstein in July 2016 that Epstein replied was, quote, funny. The phrase to slice or slicing pizza was also used in emails from the global intelligence files released by WikiLeaks in a context that clearly did not apply to food. What they're talking about is Pizzagate. Jeffrey Epstein is Pizzagate, and it was never a debunked conspiracy theory. And anyone who told you that it is a liar who covered up for child rapists. Anyone who said Pizzagate was debunked and it was conspiracy theory and tried punishing you was wrong. They're sick and twisted. Friendly reminder that pizza is an FBI-identified code word, and Ehud is a known Epstein associate who allegedly brutally raped and violently beat Virginia Giuffre, who was suicided very recently, and exonerated Trump for the record. Epstein actually stole her from Mar-a-Lago. So this brings us to the next most important pillar of this discussion. Matt and Joey, I don't know if you remember, we had the first ever Nimrod live recording in a real studio here in FEMA Region 6 with Spider, and we gave the breakdown. We boiled down the entire Pizzagate scandal into a 22-minute, ice-cold, tight deep dive. And all of you out there, I posted it. I'll actually flash it up on the screen right now. This is very important. That specifically did a deep dive on Pizzagate for all of our listeners. And this is actually one of our most viewed episodes of all time. Yeah, here we go. So this is the post. The new Epstein files prove Pizzagate was 100% real and way more sinister than we ever imagined. This was last September, episode 11, Deep State Indictments, the Las Vegas shooting, and Pizzagate. We broke it all down before it was cool, before it was proven fact. Back when it was a debunked conspiracy theory, we were covering it. We were talking about it because it was so important. because no one else had the balls to talk about it because they would be sued. They would be punished wrongly. This is called vindication for Team Humanity, guys. Pizzagate was 100% real.
I implore all you Nimrods out there to just give that episode a listen. You know, we didn't just cover Pizzagate. It's a great episode. Just go back there and learn you something, because it's much more relevant today than it was in September with this new Epstein files release. And this guy got fired from his job for us to know the truth. So the least you could do is watch.
Exactly. Epstein was Pizzagate. Pizzagate was Epstein. This is so much bigger than just Epstein or Pizzagate. This is the globalist sex trafficking pedophile blackmail network. And if it's too uncomfortable for you to talk about, I don't care. You need to know this stuff, because if we don't expose these people, if we don't bring these people to justice, they will run our lives forever, and more people will be hurt. More innocent children will be hurt. Disproportionately white children, might I add. Goyim children. So Ben Swan, legendary reporter, was fired after airing a segment on Pizzagate on mainstream media. I'm going to play it. Everybody listen up here.
Ago, when an armed man decided to investigate a D.C. area pizza place for himself. This man right here, he carried a rifle into a pizza parlor and then fired it at the floor. Media is telling you the entire story is a hoax or fake news. But what does that even mean? I spent the last month investigating. So what exactly is Pizzagate? And are there any actual facts to support the story? I've got to warn you, what we're going to talk about tonight will be disturbing to some people, but this is a reality check you won't see anywhere else. Pizzagate actually comes from the WikiLeaks release of hacked emails from Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta. In all, WikiLeaks dumped around 50,000 email messages, and it was from those emails that the claims that John Podesta may be part of a child sex trafficking ring come from. Now, to be clear, not one single email in the Podesta emails discusses child sex trafficking or pedophilia. That is a fact. But there are dozens of what seem to be strangely worded emails dealing with pizza and handkerchiefs. Self-described online investigators say that those words in the emails about pizza and the talk of handkerchiefs is code language used by pedophiles. So how did a DC pizza parlor get pulled into the story? Well, again, read any mainstream report and they indicate that Comet Ping Pong Pizza was somehow linked to this fake story and has no relation to anyone involved. But the truth is that's not true either. What media is ignoring is that the Comet Ping Pong Pizza place is actually referenced in the Podesta emails at least a dozen or so times, and that the owner of that place, James Alfantis, is a friend of John Podesta. He was actually named, this is kind of strange, by GQ magazine as one of the top 50 most powerful people in Washington. Yes, we're talking about a pizza parlor owner. Now let's talk facts here. There is no solid evidence that Comet Ping Pong Pizza is being used to run a child sex trafficking ring. But there are some very strange connections between Comet Ping Pong Pizza and a second pizza place 2 doors over, Besta Pizza, and the accusations of pedophilia. Now, this is where things start to get strange when you research this story. Now, to begin, I need to show you a 2007 unclassified FBI document. That document, according to the FBI, contains commonly used symbols by pedophiles to express their preference in children. I want you to see these images here. These are the images. Notice this one on the end, the triangle. That image signifies something called boy love. The pizza place next door to Comet Ping Pong Pizza, Besta Pizza, well, this was their logo until only a few weeks ago. Clearly, you can see that the Besta logo actually contains the same image, I'm going to show you again, as that boy lover image. Interestingly, after Pizzagate investigators pointed this out, Besta Pizza changed their logo, and there it is now. They removed the triangle. Also, Comet Ping Pong, owned by Alfantis, is the place where a number of performance artists perform regularly. 2 of the groups that perform there, who you can see advertised, by the way, on this Comet Ping Pong poster, include a group called Heavy Breathing and another group called Sex Stains. Well, if you check out the YouTube videos by these bands, Heavy Breathing has songs that do joke about pedophilia, and the band Sex Stains has a video that includes, and you see it right there, that same boy lover symbol. It's nearly identical to the one that the FBI does say is a pedophile code symbol for boy love. As I said, there are some strange things there. As for the owner of the pizza place, James Alfantis, well, he was one time in a relationship with David Brock, who ran Media Matters for America. Well, since Pizzagate began to blow up online, he has made his Instagram profile, Jimmy Comet, private. But an archive search of Instagram reveals a number of strange photographs and words with strange and disturbing images associated with them. Look, to the point where we can't show you those pictures. We're not even going to describe them to you because some viewers would find it too disturbing to share on TV. Now let's talk about the Podesta brothers, because remember, it was John Podesta's email that was hacked. In those leaked Podesta emails, John Podesta talks about his close relationship with Dennis Hastert, the former Speaker of the House, who was recently sentenced to 15 months in prison for abusing boys years ago. He was referred to by the judge as a serial child molester. According to the Washington Post, visitors to Tony Podesta's home in Falls Church got an eyeful when they walked into a bedroom at the Podesta residence hung with multiple color pictures by Katie Grannon, a photographer known for documentary-style pictures of naked teenagers in their parents' suburban homes. And to be clear, that just begins to scratch the surface of how strange some of this stuff is. And bear in mind, we can't get into a lot of the real details of it because of the limits on broadcasting this on television. But it is some very strange stuff. Now, keep in mind, again, there is no proof here that there is a child sex ring being operated out of a DC pizza parlor. Investigators have already proven there's nothing to the story, right? Well, actually, no. And that's what you need to know. For all that is here, there has not been one single public investigation of any of this, not from local police, not from the FBI, no one. And that has to be the big question, not for Podesta or for pizza parlor owners, but for law enforcement. Based on what may be or may not be here, the big question is, why hasn't any investigation taken place? That's Reality Check. Let's talk about it on Twitter.
That's a patriot. That's the legendary Ben Swan, who has been vindicated. He might have lost his job back then, but he has won the hearts and minds of patriots worldwide. This is what 1776 worldwide looks like. This is what victory looks like, gentlemen. And I'll have you know, Ben Swan is back. He's on X at Ben Swan, 2 N's, _. And he just dropped another massive bombshell report on Pizzagate, tying it into this newest large dump of Jeffrey Epstein files. Shout out Ben Swan. You're welcome on the Nimrod pod anytime. Now, Alex Jones was one of the journalists who was sued into oblivion for covering Pizzagate. And the backlash came when they sent this psychopath into Comet Pizza with a gun to shoot it up and blame it all on the conspiracy theorists. So Alex has been working tirelessly to try to connect the dots between this Epstein dump and Pizzagate. And he pulled in all the juicy, important documents into this one X thread. I'll show you a couple. One from Daphne Wallace to Jeffrey Epstein. May I bring in your slice of pizza to you? Wanted to check and see if you might be available for a pizza party next Sat after the friendly Darien game we are having. It's been difficult trying to find a time that most people are available to participate, but seems next Saturday is the best for most. Please let me know. U9 Red Pizza Party. We're not talking about flag
absolutely
football.
Crazy in there. The fact that it says U9, what are we talking about? A soccer team here? They're bringing in the soccer team? Golly.
This ain't flag football. And this is the really important part. This is from the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They have this intelligence bulletin, which acts as a template. Essentially, these are all code words and terminology used by pedophiles to identify sexual preferences. So a hot dog is a boy. Pizza is a girl. Cheese is a little girl. Cheese pizza is CP, by the way. pasta, little boy, ice cream, male prostitute. Barack Obama loves ice cream. Walnut is a person of color. You don't see a lot of walnuts in the Epstein files, do you? Map is semen. Sauce is orgy. So here are some of their terms. Let's keep this in mind as we dig through these files. This one's the most, awe-inspiring. I almost can't believe that they actually sent this email. So they're just getting a head count for pizza. Everybody wants a head count for pizza. How many heads we got for this pizza that we're going to have? Who all is in the Austin office today who is going to want pizza? We only have one slice, and we need to know how thinly to slice it. We only got one slice, so we need to know how thinly we need to slice this one slice for everybody in the Austin office. Are they talking about a slice of pizza, gentlemen? I don't fucking think so. Please just feel free to jump at any time. I'm going to keep ripping through these files. In the next part of the thread, I don't have the stomach for it or for any drama. Imaginary or real, I'm still fragile off the last one and scared of shadows. I watched them all. Please don't send anymore. If you're not too busy. This is better than a Chinese cookie. Let's go for pizza and grape soda again. No one else can understand. Reply, the pizza master. Wow, they're having a lot of pizza. I think they must just love great Italian-American food. This has nothing to do with pedophilia. You mean radiating a soft glow with the look of bliss and excitement? Yep, that's the pizza. She looks pregnant. That's exactly how I would also describe pizza.
So this is the adrenochrome, right? This is the effects of the adrenochrome that they're all after. It's to make them look young and vibrant. And in this case, they said she looks pregnant, which just meant that she is glowing and looks youthful and alive. So we've all been vindicated here. Anybody who even mentioned adrenochrome 15 years ago got laughed out of the whole building. You know, nobody believed this shit for so long, and it's all true, which is both disgusting and vindicating.
Want to let you know the crew really appreciated the pizza today. Thank you for letting us do that. Do what? Let's not forget, there are people on both sides of the aisle involved in Pizzagate, and we know for sure there's people on both sides of the aisle involved with the Epstein operation, but they're intertwined. Like, there is a direct connection between what was in WikiLeaks. There's a direct connection to James Alefantis, Jeffrey Epstein, Podesta and the deep state Democrats and the Uniparty, and it's all intertwined. It's all connected. This is all the same thing, but different. They might be different operations, but it's the same people. It's the same evil. It's the same problem that we need to address and get justice for. It's the same exact problem. And it's all interconnected. Any final reactions to Pizzagate? I think it's really easy to look past the fact that Pizzagate is 100% real now. We couldn't even search it up on X. It was impossible for us to research it without going deep into the dark web when we did this the last September, and now it's just common knowledge. This is big. This is so big, and everybody should know exactly what Pizzagate is from this point forward. Any final reactions?
This is extremely disturbing. And with that being said, the way that these emails were written, I couldn't help but laugh. And it's still disgusting that this happened, but it's comical the way that they talk about this situation. So my perspective is they're sending these emails like it's trophies. They're saying, I want some more of that pizza. Let that happen again. This is just a bunch of stupid, perverted men explaining their trophies to other people. And they think their code language is going to be okay through email encryption and that nobody's going to know what they're talking about. And this sounds so silly, but they believed that this email code was going to keep them from being vindicated, and maybe that's true. But Pizzagate needs to be revisited. This is clear cut, and it's simply men taking trophies of their pizza.
Amen. Now, I want to get into some of the prominent figures that have been exposed, or at least appear many times in the latest tranche of Epstein files. I want to start off with our good buddy, Billy Gates. Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft. Let's take a look at Bill Gates. For this first one here is really something. Breaking Epstein files. Epstein emails allege Bill Gates caught an STD from Russian girls and begged Epstein for secret antibiotics to dose Melinda, his ex-wife, previously wife when this was written. And then fast forward, she divorces him in 2021, citing his Epstein ties as a reason. She's now worth almost $30 billion. This is the famous email. You know what? I feel inclined to read this. This is an email from Jeffrey to Bill that he saved as a draft. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you. Dear Bill, I cannot believe that you have chosen to disregard our friendship developed over the last 6 years. I am aware that accidents happen. It is how each of us has chosen to deal with this unfortunate event that has me dismayed beyond comprehension. You have decided to discharge me from my job. Had Larry, or PR person, tell me that I engaged in morally inappropriate behavior, asked me to be the major actor in a cover-up so that you can maintain the reputation that you have worked so hard to achieve, asked me to recommit to a confidentiality agreement, and have categorically told me that we cannot have any direct ongoing business relationship, in total disregard for its impact on the public perception of my reputation. Then he goes on, and he bitches and he moans, he bitches and he moans and he cries. But then we get down to the bottom. Again, this might just be one single run-on sentence. Good Lord, this must be a toddler or like a small, armless child that wrote this. Let's go to this last part here. To add insult to the injury, you then implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD, your request that I provide you antibiotics that you can... Anybody want to try this word? Surreptitiously? Hell yeah, surreptitiously. Surreptitiously give to Melinda. And I know what it means, though. I may not know how to pronounce it, but I know that it means slip it in her drink unknowingly. And the description of your penis. He just throws that in there. So somehow he has the description of his penis down to a T. You also made it clear to me that I am not to refer to blank, somebody redacted, as that is another topic that must remain between the two of us. Interesting. Bill Gates, everybody. I guess he got an STD and begged for special antibiotics from Jeffrey Epstein. Why Jeffrey Epstein and not like anyone else on the face of planet Earth? I don't know. I guess he got an STD from some Russian girls, allegedly. If I go to this next beautiful document, Bill Gates was planning pandemic simulations. This one will actually be good. It's a video. Okay. Bill Gates was planning pandemic simulations with Epstein in 2017. This is well after he was convicted pedophile felon. Let's get this.
Now here we are. You know, we didn't simulate this. We didn't practice.
On behalf of our partners in the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
So both the health policies and economic policies, we find ourselves in uncharted territory. Now here we are.
If we look down here, this sentence, follow-up recommendations and or technical specifications for strain pandemic simulation. And that's kind of what we got. But it's good to know that Bill Gates had our back and was practicing in 2017 for COVID. And then finally, friend of the show, Black Sheep, who may or may not work for the CIA, had a great viral tweet. He said, "So, Epstein and Gates are discussing how to get rid of poor people as a whole. Alex Jones has been vindicated." Here's the exchange. From Epstein. "Anytime, you can always call." "Cool, I'm excited. Also, I've been thinking a lot about that question that you asked Bill Gates. How do we get rid of poor people as a whole? And I have an answer / comment regarding that for you. When can I call you today to discuss?" Who is Jeffrey Epstein? Why do you have people trying to answer such massive questions that have such severe implications on all of humanity? How do we get rid of poor people as a whole? I need to go to Jeffrey Epstein, the financial advisor, to turn this plan into action, concrete action. What do we think of Billy Gates? Is he a good guy? Is he going to get out of this scot-free?
Before I dive into Bill Gates, I think that this would be the type of conversation that I would have if I was a rich billionaire on an island. Hey guys, how do we get rid of poor people as a whole? I think that would be a quite funny conversation to have. But apart from that, I want to reiterate that we are here at the Nimrod Pod sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we thank Bill Gates for simulating COVID in 2017 because that's valiant work for the future of humanity. And now what I can say about the rest of the things that Bill Gates has done with buying farmland and cloud seeding and GMO and everything else that he does, I think we can say he's obviously working with humanity's interests at heart as a whole. So thank you, Bill. And I'm glad, honestly, because sort of like Mel said earlier, I don't expect anything to come down on these people after the fact. You know, maybe everybody in the world will know that they're in on this, and that's punishment enough. But it sounds like Bill Gates has AIDS or something disgusting that it would cause his dick to look wrong, which is really funny. And I'm glad there was a little bit of consequences for this guy for raping these Russian girls. So little small win for all you goyim out there.
Yeah, I agree with Chet. A man who builds money his entire life and becomes a multi-billionaire and then puts that money into a foundation that ultimately helps humanity. You got to appreciate somebody like that, but nobody's perfect. And, some of this evidence looks like Bill was fiddling around the wrong crowd. But I think the thing that does it for me, that solidifies that Bill is guilty of something, is the fact that Warren Buffett is no longer going to give 80% of his wealth to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation after his death. So for those of you that did not know, Warren Buffett is now going to give his money to his kids to do his own trust because he doesn't trust them or their leadership at the Gates Foundation anymore. And I'm a big fan of Warren. I trust in Warren. And I think he is also suspicious of Mr. Bill Gates.
Yeah, so this Bill Gates guy, this is the same guy that created lab cultivated meat that he's currently trying to get on shelves nationwide. This is, and again, using cancer cells to rapidly grow lab grown meat. The same guy who is so insistent on reducing the carbon footprint that he wants to mass slaughter cattle. Same guy that force vaccinated an entire continent with GMO mosquitoes. The same guy that wants to eliminate all the poor people. Does this sound like a guy who likes people? Does this sound like a guy that wants more life and more prosper and like a very progressive guy, a good man? I don't think so. And he's hanging around with Jeffrey Epstein getting STDs and swapping special potions to make the STDs go away so he can slip it in his wife's drink. This is a satanic scumbag. This is such a terrible person. It is at a biblical level. He will be in our grandchildren's textbooks as one of the most disgusting, evil threats to humanity of all time. And he was cozied up with Jeffrey Epstein. Let's not forget that. I want to move on to George Bush. It's unclear which George Bush, but one of the George Bushes made a splash, whether it be W or HW, in the recent release Epstein files. Let's read this one. So this new document, George Bush 1, which could be senior, could be junior, allegedly raped a male victim and witnessed a type of ritualistic sacrifice. Let's read this. He has more to tell us, too, he said. Thanks, I didn't realize Bush raped him, too. Okay. FBI. These aren't just like random people. This is like FBI documents, people that were interviewing people involved with this situation. I'd like to add a few other points discussed by the purported victim. While on this yacht, he witnessed African-American males having sex with white blonde females. Nice. All of whom were bleeding during intercourse. Oh, not nice. Not nice. He was a victim of a type of ritualistic sacrifice in which his feet were cut with a scimitar. Another word, I don't know because I'm not a satanic psychopath that rapes, murders, and tortures people. I'll continue, but left no scarring. So his feet were cut, left no scarring. On the yacht, next bullet point, he witnessed babies being dismembered, their intestines being removed, and individuals eating the feces from the intestines, like sardines in a little can. He was also raped by George Bush 1. Victim disclosed he was escorted to the FBI building by Michael Moore, who is the creator of True Pundit, described by multiple online sources as a conspiracy-driven news website that attempts to paint the FBI in a bad light. Moore has a criminal record as a result of an FBI investigation. Let me know if you want to discuss the former FBI agent that called this into the head office. George Bush 1, everybody. Now, you would think they're talking about HW, but when you think about the age, that might seem a little less likely. And then you remember that George W. is plastered all over Epstein's estates. There's artwork of George Bush, George W. Bush, all over. And we know that there was a relationship. We know that Bill Clinton was intertwined with this group as well. What are your theories? Do you think this was HW or W? Do you think this is pretty cool that a former president was doing this? Do you think this is just the tip of the iceberg?
I think this has to be George W. Bush at this point, because the other one was an old freak. I don't think he could have raped somebody if he wanted to, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. And this is the type of stuff that we're seeing here, vindicating all the theories, but more than that, proving that this is a religious thing. This is ritualistic, and it's cult-like. This is a cult. This is the Bohemian Grove. This is Eyes Wide Shut. This is a cult, and they are sacrificing babies and adults, and they are having groups of black people rape their white blonde women. So there's something that this is a religious satanic group, and it's not smart to paint it in any other light than that. You know, that's what they were. They definitely weren't Christians, and they might not have even represented the Judaism as a whole. This is definitely just their own crew, and I'm glad it's out.
Again, this crosses party lines. We just talked about George Bush. Now we're going to talk about Bill Clinton raping men. Alex Jones is a conservative populist. He's always been a patriot. That's how he describes himself. He doesn't associate himself with a party. He is a conservative populist, team humanity, America first patriot. That's what he is. That's what he's always been. And he was one of the biggest, like he was almost like a cult hero of the left for most of the beginning of his career, because he was George Bush's biggest enemy. He was his biggest adversary. He was exposing all the evil. Like he knew from the start that George Bush did 9/11, that he allowed 9/11 to happen. He was working with foreign countries against the American people, and which created like the largest terror attack in American history up to that point. He's the same guy that infiltrated Bohemian Grove, something nobody thought existed. Bohemian Grove is historically a majority conservative or Republican group. But at the end of the day, it's this big uniparty, and George Bush is implicated, and the Bill Clintons of the world are implicated. And here in this file, the quote is, X states he was raped or sodomized by Epstein in 2000 on a large yacht, as well as by former U.S. President William J. Clinton. The redacted person states he was raped, sodomized by Epstein on a large yacht, 9 out of blank, as well as by former U.S. President William J. Clinton. And all these are available. And if I look down here, he also said that current President Trump, along with his wife Melania, were present during the yacht trip in 2000. They were not married yet. He also reported while being raped by Epstein Clinton, he was in a heavy drug-induced state. He stated all the above incidents were recovered, repressed memories until he began therapy sometime in 2016, sometime after Trump got elected. So let's keep this in mind. This is why you got to really think about this stuff. If I go to the top, on Tuesday, August 27th, 2019, myself and SA, Special Agent Blank, conducted an interview on a purported victim of Epstein as by the referral of a former special agent and Michael Moore, this journalist who keeps showing up. So this could be real. It could not be real. It's after Trump was elected. So August 27th, 2019. So we already know he's a serial rapist and he's involved with a pedophile blackmail ring. So who knows if we can trust this? So that's Bill Clinton, George Bush. I don't know if you guys heard this. Apparently, Jay-Z has fled the country due to his many mentions in the Epstein files. Anybody see this? The only evidence we have online, obviously there's like a ton of reports from people that are close to him that said he just got the fuck out of Dodge, but there's like pictures of his jet taking off to an undisclosed Caribbean island location. I guess I would too.
Imagine if he goes back to the U.S. Virgin Islands. He goes back to Little St. James and hides out in that blue and white and gold box in that cube. I think that's what I would do. Just live out my last few days of freedom and enjoy the spoils of war. And I hope that he goes to jail forever and gets raped in jail.
So do I. I got two final folks I want to dive into. First, Diligent Denizen leaked something interesting about Marco Rubio. So, believe it or not, Epstein sent an email in 2017 that stated that Senator Marco Rubio was the original funder for the Steele dossier. Let's see if I got this. This is from Epstein to Michael Wolff, who's this guy who's working with Epstein against Trump, and Trump thinks he's exonerated because Wolff is just trying to find dirt on Trump because Trump's the president while this whole case is going on with Epstein. I assume you already know that the original funder for the Steele dossier was Rubio. Not sure why it seems so mysterious. Rubio is the deep state lizard person in the Trump administration. He's the one that works for Netanyahu. Like he was the guy that was funded by AIPAC against Trump in the GOP primary 2016. It's the same guy that is making us go into all the Latin American countries, same guy that wants to go into Iran, same guy that wants to take over Greenland. Some of these are better than others. I'm all for hemispheric sovereignty, but the guy that's pushing all the wars is Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is the butt buddy of Mossad, Israel, Jeffrey Epstein. Go figure. Next person I want to look at, a guy named Zohran Mamdani. Now, this is interesting. His mother, Mira Nair, is this well-known director, I guess. I'll play this video.
I was offered it, and it's coincidentally one of my favorite novels. Since I was 16 in an Irish Catholic boarding school in India,
Yeah.
I was steeped in English literature, and it was a book I read under the covers, and never forgot Becky Sharp, because she was like us. She was a woman who was determined to make her own way, and I love that. And read this novel over the.
Anyway, yeah, just a stupid broad. But she was at this party with Epstein. Let's read this. Zohran Mamdani's mother, filmmaker Mira Nair, attended a 2009 after party at Ghislaine Maxwell's townhouse. So she was at their house alongside Clinton and Bezos this is after Epstein's 2008 conviction. I love how everybody was just kept hanging out after 2008. They were waiting for the big one. They're waiting for him to really get in trouble. Like, we know you're a sex offender, but we don't want you to be like the mastermind of a massive blackmail ring too. We'll just wait for that shoe to drop, and then we'll claim to never know you. So this means that Zohran isn't just some grassroots guy that showed up out of nowhere to save New York and bring socialism and affordability to the people. No, this is a guy that was groomed. He was groomed no differently than all the sex slaves in the sex trafficking operation that Epstein was at the helm of. Clearly, Zohran Mamdani was curated to be New York City mayor, to be the face of the far left, to be the face of the Red-Green Alliance. He was propped up by this organized Jewish coalition, by Epstein and his friends, by Israel, by the globalists, Jewish globalists, for the most part, right? These people, they call us goyim all over these files. They look down on us. We're cattle. And they pick this little brown kid to be a socialist, communist, Islamic. Why would they want that? Aren't they Jewish? That's exactly what they want. I told you earlier, the Rothschilds brokered at both sides of every single conflict since Napoleon. They want hatred for the Jews. Because if there's hatred for the Jews, they have power that they can leverage. They can enact hate speech laws against us. They can use the ADL to target people. They can assign 40 full-time analysts to monitor our social media accounts and our bank accounts and go after us. They want the hatred, especially towards Jewish people, because anti-Semitism is power. They learn that. So that's why they create this little brown kid to run the Red-Green Alliance and lead the socialist revolution that Bernie couldn't get off the ground. I mean, this man was groomed, clearly. So that's Zohran Mamdani. It's Marco Rubio. And there's so much more. Like, we see in these files, there's cannibalism. They had these hunting parties with human prey, and they talk about, like, murdering for fun. There's files about Jeffrey needing pints of Mormon blood. Robert Trivers, who is like one of the most world-renowned biologists, eugenicists, and he has these series of letters with Epstein where they're talking about transgenderism and designer babies and human cloning and adrenochrome. And this is where you get into the crazy Zorro Ranch side of Epstein that we kind of learned about in the earlier releases of Epstein files and earlier investigations. What was the most jarring thing you found so far in these files? Is there anything we didn't cover that you guys want to talk about?
I mean, I wish this stuff was jarring. I don't think it's jarring anymore because I've been desensitized to it through years of talking about it and researching it. So maybe not jarring anymore. I will say the confirmation that they were opening up the intestines of children on the boats is a little bit jarring to me. I think what's most interesting about this is that the connection of their religion as Jewish people and what everything they were talking about. They're talking about how to get into events through a secret entrance. They say waiting in lines is for goyim. And they're talking about how goyim have to play the fair game in the markets and these Jewish people are allowed to take shortcuts and have opportunities open to them that aren't open to the rest of people. So I mean, that's the main piece that I'm pulling out of here, is that this was in fact a group of Jewish pedophile elites, and they are still out there today, and they're still fighting. They're probably still sacrificing children, just under a new program. So this is still something that needs to be stopped. Everybody in America needs to be able to be honest and take a look at this and say, why are these high-powered Jewish elites doing all this stuff? Why are we letting them proclaim that they're our greatest ally in Israel? And why does everybody seem to bend the knee to Netanyahu and Israel? Those are the questions that people are forced to answer when they read this stuff. So I'm interested in seeing how the public opinion develops and how the mainstream news narrative develops over the next couple of weeks. I'm interested in where that goes and what these boomers try and cope with, because you know that I'm going to lash out against them using the Nimrod Pod X account. And all you Nimrods that follow us out there, just grab some popcorn and get ready for a treat.
I think the most frightening thing to me is not the violent acts that have happened for 20 plus years, but the fact that it wasn't just one individual, being Jeffrey Epstein, that was the mastermind behind this. We grow up thinking that the United States government, composed of the executive, legislative, and judicial branch, run the US. And to some sort of extent, you also believe that they kind of run the world. We're very egocentric, thinking that through our democratic processes, everything will be okay. There will be fair trials. People will be dealt with and found justice. But then you see a situation like this where there is one unified or multiple unified, large, powerful organizations that headed this. And they had many other things in the country. And I guess the question is, what is power? And power is influence. And there are groups out there, as we have now seen, that are more powerful than the United States and political leaders. We see George Bush, we see Bill Clinton, we see these people that you expect to be good, humane people get put into this ring because they're either blackmailed or they're a bad person at heart. Now, we don't necessarily know which one it is, but regardless, power is influence, and these groups will assert influence over these other strong people. And it just makes me worry about who to trust and the future of the world, the future of the United States. And I want to have one quick shout out, since he's been a topic of discussion. I love the fact that political leaders like James Fishback are not taking money from big organizations, because that means they can't be persuaded to ultimately protect other people or pursue things that are not of their interest. They don't have anybody holding them on a leash. And people like Alex Jones, it's like, we need these people in office to avoid situations like this Jeffrey Epstein thing, to avoid situations like people succumbing to these large groups, these large organizations that are threatening people and killing people if they let the news that nobody knows come out. And so that's the scariest thing to me, that we are really not in control and nobody is strong enough or strong-willed enough to call these groups out.
Well said, gentlemen. Now, I know this might have seemed like a dry episode, but I think this was an information overload. There are millions and millions and millions of pages of files that were released this past Friday. And I'm going to direct you guys towards a post from our friend Black Sheep. You don't have to wait for people like us or people like Alex Jones or people like Mike Benz to tell you what's in the Epstein files. You can go find it yourself. Like, we all have a unique mind with unique experiences that we can use when we're analyzing what's going on in these files. And I'll show you guys this post from Black Sheep. Alex Jones literally took Black Sheep, who is this guy with 20 followers that used to feed us information, and he blew up his spot, and now Black Sheep has over 1,000 followers. He deserves it. This guy goes super deep, and I almost can't keep up with him, but here's the message. If you're serious about exposing Jeffrey Epstein and all of his clients and associates, you don't have to wait. If you're serious, here are the locations of the official documents. Just go to justice.gov/Epstein, navigate to the DOJ disclosure section, and look at datasets 9 to 12 and on. The most recent batches are in datasets 9 through 12, which contain the January 2026 releases. Take matters into your own hands and dive into these files. Create AI bots. Analyze this. Look for key code words. They purposely misspelled things so that we couldn't pick up on them in simple searches. Get creative, guys. Actually, use your eyeballs and read the text. Flip to a random page. You never know what you could discover that nobody else has. Again, a lot of this stuff is in code. If we can decipher the code, we can go after the bad guys, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get justice. We talk about Alex Jones being vindicated, and he wholeheartedly is. But we need to support patriots like Alex Jones so that they can keep fighting for us. If we're not going to fight, then we have to support them financially. And I'll have you know, you can actually support both Alex Jones and the Nimrod Pod now exclusively at the link thealexjonesstore.com/Nimrod. thealexjonesstore.com/Nimrod. You can see their extensive list of supplements, hundreds and hundreds of designs of Patriot apparel. I do 6-week cycles with methylene blue, 6 week on, 6 week off, because it kind of resets your mitochondria, gets them tickling again when you get back into it. I hadn't done it in a while. I didn't want to do an afternoon coffee, so I said, you know what? I'm doubling up. Trimethylene blue, trimethylene red, together down the hatch, and I'll have you know, I can literally feel it down in the veins of my plums. I can feel this shit so deep inside of me that it makes my asshole tingle just telling you about it. The last time I took methylene blue, it has been so long, because last time I took it, I woke up and my cock was stiffer than the backside of Bill Clinton's ballsack after he was clapping that man's cheeks on the yacht. You guys don't understand what you're missing. If you're not taking methylene blue, if you don't know what it's about, go look it up. Go look it up. I'm not going to tell you. It's the best. We have the best here at thealexjonesstore.com/Nimrod. thealexjonesstore.com/Nimrod. I know we're not supposed to give medical advice, but if you want to fuck for over 13 and a half hours without losing an erection, if you want to last for 2 to 6 days without stopping, ultramethylene blue will do it for you. They're not allowed to put it on the bottle. They're not allowed to say it on the website. And they're not allowed to say it in their little ads. But I'll tell you what, I'll say it right in the camera. I conceived at least 3,036 children using methylene blue in conjunction with ultramethylene red. This is a horse pill. It is a horse pill, and it'll give you a horse cock to sling around town. thealexjonesstore.com/Nimrod to keep the Nimrods and Alex Jones on the air. Nimrods, supporting this broadcast is like shoving your fist so far up Satan's pussy, you could literally tickle his brainstem and give him an aneurysm. If there's something the globalists hate, it's Alex Jones and the Nimrod Pod. I don't know how this is going to end, but you guys picked a battle, and you got one. There's only one answer to 1984, and that is 1776. And there's only one answer to 666. And I'll tell you, this whole Epstein situation, this is 666 on Earth. This encapsulates the evil of humanity, the unfaithfulness of humanity. God may be the God of heaven and earth, but we're living in Satan's playground. He's tempting us at all times. We will never be perfect, but we must reject Satan. The only answer to 1984, 1776, the only answer to 666 is Christ the King. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys next week.